Yesterday's new Legislative Assembly meeting made for some interesting debate, despite the absence of the Premier, who is currently overseas. As members of the House gathered to deliberate over a number of issues, first item on the agenda was the tabling of the Nuclear Test Ban Bill 2013. The bill was tabled by Acting Premier Honourable Pokotoa Sipili. When put through the first reading, the Assembly voted 12 votes for the bill and 2 against. They agreed to refer the bill to the Bills Committee and would report back on their findings at a later stage. Discussions into the consolidated new philatelic and numismatic company budget estimates for the year 2013 to 14 was deferred to a later date. A report on the Parliamentary and Political Leaders Forum was presented for consideration by the members who attended the forum, Honourable Vainga Tukitonga and Honourable Talesi Tamatalesi. The report was endorsed by the Assembly after a brief presentation from both members. There was a number of motions up for discussion, but 2 were removed by Honourable Terry Coe. The first motion from Common Roll member Crossley Tatui that the higher out rate for the plantation clearing bulldozer D6 be set at $100 per hour was carried forward with 13 votes for the motion and only 1 against. Common Roll member Terry Coe's motion that Cabinet increase the excise tax on the price of cigarettes to give a retail price of $20 a packet and other tobacco products by a similar amount was defeated with only 2 votes for the motion, 8 votes against, and 2 members abstaining. Member of Parliament for Hakupu, Honourable Young Vivian, put forward a motion for the government to fix the telephone systems for the villages of Hakupu and Waia before Christmas this year, received an unanimous 11 votes in support of the motion that was carried forward. Towards the end of the meeting, Honourable Terry Coe presented another motion that the bond store become only an importer and wholesaler of alcoholic beverages to the licensed retailers. This motion was carried with 6 votes for the motion, 4 against and 2 MPs abstaining from voting. The meeting concluded with the next Assembly meeting yet to be confirmed in November, but a day and time will be set by the Speaker, acting on the request of Honourable Premier. Department of Education Director Mrs. Janet Tasmania is retiring after 40 years of service to the academic sector and the government of Niue. Chairperson of the government employment body, the Niue Public Service Commission, Mrs. Gina Tukiuha said Mrs. Tasmania will conclude her services in the public service tomorrow. The new Director of Education is Mrs. Bertha Tongahai. She will commence her new role on the 1st of November. We wish Mrs. Janet Tasmania all the best, as well as Mrs. Tongahai. After 5 years, Integrated Water Management is about to wrap up its core operations on the island. The water project played an integral part in the water management operations on the island, but according to representatives from the Water Service Division, the duration of the project is in its final phase. Yesterday, a workshop with stakeholders and interest groups who have benefited and work from the IWRM operations were in discussions of the project and its developments and the next phase of the water management program. Some of the initiatives from the project target communities and specific campaign to raise awareness within the schools and communities on the island. The IWRM project originated from the IWP project that also saw 2 marine areas become protected, with the latest reopen of Alofi North area in September after 7 years of closure. It's not often the Pacific Islands Forum leaders meet the Chinese leadership alone on Chinese soil. The exception is the annual Post-Pacific Forum Dialogue, which follows the Pacific Forum Leaders Summit and is always held in the Pacific. But things have changed. Next week, Pacific Forum leaders will converge on China's eastern coastal city of Guangzhou for the first Sino-Pacific Forum leaders meeting. The world's third largest economy will, among other things, announce a $1 billion soft loan facility it is offering the Pacific Islands governments during the three-day China Forum Leaders Summit from the 9th of November. The hosting of the historic summit also heralds the advent of a new player in the game plan to not only have a slice of the Pacific, but win the hearts of its citizens and governments struggling to make ends meet. For now, it seems the game to win the Pacific is on. On one side, the traditional donors such as Australia, New Zealand and the United States, and to an extent, the United Kingdom, and on the other is China, the new kid on the block and rising economic and military power in the Asia-Pacific region. Niue's Premier Honourable Toke Talangi will attend the forum with an expectation of a delegation to follow tomorrow. China has also shown a keen interest in Niue. We'll bring you more on Niue's response to the meeting next week. An initiative to acknowledge the efforts of young farmers and fishermen has generated so much interest that the awards have been slightly delayed. Over the years, there has been concern with the aging population of farmers on the island that agricultural farming may not have an appeal on the younger generation. But it seems that with these recent awards and recognition programs set up by the Department of Agriculture, Forestry and Fisheries, there may be about to change. Also, with the frequent fishing competitions lately, there has been a noticeable increase in interest from young people involved in fisheries. Initially, the plan was for nominations to be put forward and awards to be distributed during the National Show Day during Constitution celebrations. However, there was so much interest, the Select Committee has a great task on their hands to try and narrow down the finalists following a wide set of criteria. The categories include Young Farmer of the Year, Young Fisherperson of the Year, and the overall Ultimate Farmer and Fisherperson of the Year. According to a DAF representative, they have been surprised by the level of interest shown, and there have been many nominations that has taken the committee a bit longer to come to a decision. In a meeting held on Tuesday, they have finalized the awards and the official ceremony will be held tomorrow at Makini Hall starting at 9 a.m. in the morning. From there, it will be revealed who the hard-working young people will be to hold the titles for this year, while the department think of other ways to encourage participation in agricultural and fisheries developments on the island. To end our news bulletin for tonight, the EDF-10 project to renew power cables around the whole island that coincides with the fibre optic cabling project has encountered some delays. Project coordinators acknowledge that there has been a slight delay to the project while awaiting some cabling to arrive on the most recent boat. This week, work has resumed in the village of Mutalo, with the trenching work now reaching the end of Mutalo village. However, the multiple projects working side by side has posed a variety of challenges. Once teams reach the inner villages, they have to lay down the power cable, whilst trying not to disrupt water supply, and also have to work in line with staff from the telecommunications sector to install fibre optic cables. At this point, it is uncertain when this project will actually be completed, but with only 2 more months until the end of the year, the hope is it will be done soon. In the meantime, residents will have to put up with the conditions of the roads due to the trenching work before all can be resealed and back to normal. And that's our news bulletin for tonight. Also, tomorrow, the 1st of November, is cyclone season, and Met Services and the Niue Disaster Council would like to advise all residents on the island to be prepared. Good evening.